Before Lemuria, before Atlantis, there was a forgotten chapter in the spiritual evolution of humanity, the Hyperborean Age. According to Helena Blavatsky, this was not merely a mythological era, but a real and essential phase in the cosmic unfolding of mankind. The Hyperboreans were not physical in the way we understand it. They were the second root race, born from the residue of the first, the ethereal, divine Polarians. Hyperboreans were radiant beings, without bones or blood, existing in a state between spirit and matter. They lived in a land of eternal light, around the mythical North Pole, a realm where the sun never set. There was no death, no suffering, no conflict. Their lives were in perfect harmony with the cosmic rhythms, but modern science calls it legend, and yet every ancient culture remembers a golden race in the north. What if memory is older than evidence? In Blavatsky's cosmology, the evolution of humanity is not a straight line, but a spiral, unfolding through great cycles of manifestation. The Hyperborean Age was not a primitive time, but a sublime one. These beings were androgynous, neither male nor female, and they reproduced not through physical means but through fission, division, a concept more spiritual than biological. Their bodies were composed of a subtle, luminous substance. They didn't build cities or write scrolls. Their knowledge was inner, telepathic, transmitted soul to soul, vibration to vibration. They didn't worship gods because they were still close to their divine origin. There was no need for ritual, no temples, no language, only being, only the light. The land they inhabited, Hyperborea, was said to be located near the North Pole, long before the Earth tilted, long before the poles froze. It was a place of unimaginable serenity and radiance. Ancient Greeks spoke of it as a paradise where Apollo would spend his winters. In the Vedic tradition, similar lands are mentioned as realms of the gods. Hyperborea was not just a geographical location, it was a vibration, a state of planetary consciousness. In this age, the Earth itself was less dense, the veil between dimensions thinner. The spiritual and the material were intertwined, almost indistinguishable. These weren't primitive cavemen. They were the dreamers of form, the bridge between pure spirit and the coming descent into matter. But like all ages, Hyperborea came to an end, not with fire or flood, but with a gradual descent, a fall, not from grace, but into density. As the planet evolved, as cycles turned, the energy of the Earth changed. The beings of light could no longer remain. They faded, not because they were destroyed, but because their time had passed. This wasn't extinction, it was transformation. They left behind no ruins, no artifacts, only myths, symbols, and the whispers of intuition in ancient souls. And so, the Lemurian Age began, heavier, more physical, more dualistic. A step down, but a step forward in the soul's journey through experience. To understand Hyperborea is to shift from historical thinking to spiritual perception. Helena Blavatsky warned that the root races are not racial in the biological sense. They are archetypal stages of consciousness. Each one corresponds to an element, to a mode of being. The Hyperborean Age was aligned with air, expansive, subtle, penetrating. It is no coincidence that beings from this era could move across space without technology, sense the thoughts of others, and live without conflict. There was no fear, no competition, no ego. Their existence was a dance of harmony, a song of form without weight, and we, even now, carry their essence inside us, as memory, as longing, as potential. Modern minds, conditioned by materialism, struggle to take this seriously. But all around us are fragments of Hyperborea's memory, the myths of a golden age, the polar origin of gods, the archetype of the radiant being. Why does every culture speak of a time of light that preceded the fall? Why do ancient symbols depict spiral evolution, divine descent, and northern paradise? It is because truth was once encoded in story. Theosophy seeks to decode it. Blavatsky reminds us that history is not just what is recorded, it is what is remembered in the soul, and souls, even when bodies forget, never lose their light. In esoteric science, everything follows cycles, and the root races are no exception. The first root race was pure spirit, the second, the Hyperborean, and was still luminous, but already touching matter. They were not meant to last forever. Their role was to prepare the energetic templates for what would come. Just like leaves fall to feed the soil for future seeds, the Hyperboreans faded to make way for the Lemurians, who would begin the adventure of individuality. Ego, choice, pain, all these would arise, but so would awareness, compassion, and the ultimate return to unity. In that sense, the Hyperborean sacrifice was divine. Hyperborea also holds warnings. Blavatsky was clear. The misuse of esoteric knowledge leads to spiritual downfall. In later ages, fragments of Hyperborean memory were twisted by those seeking racial superiority or mythical validation. But the Hyperborean archetype is not bound to genetics or nation. It is a state of being, a vibration, a frequency of purity, light, and silent knowledge. No race owns it. No religion can monopolize it. Only the pure-hearted, those who seek wisdom beyond form, can touch it again. And they will not do it by conquering, but by remembering. This age may be gone in form, but it lives in symbol. The swan, the spiral, the radiant northern sun, all are echoes of Hyperborea. In dreams, some still walk in golden fields where no shadows fall. In meditation, some still hear the silent music of pre-human memory, and in deep moments of intuition the soul whispers, "You were there, you have not forgotten. You were once light before you were flesh, before names, before stories, before the fall." That is the true essence of the Hyperborean legacy. Not nostalgia, but awakening. Today, when the world seems fractured, divided, drowning in density, the memory of Hyperborea rises again, not to escape reality, but to realign it. In the deepest spiritual traditions, it is said, to move forward we must remember where we came from. Not just our past lives, but our archetypal origins. The Hyperborean age teaches us that we are not merely descendants of apes, but manifestations of light. The path of evolution is not linear, it is a circle, and every return is a higher spiral. As above, so below, as before, so beyond. Blavatsky's teachings remain controversial, misunderstood, even feared, but those who read between the lines, who see with the inner eye, recognize something profound. She was not inventing fantasy, she was revealing fragments of a truth too vast for textbooks. The Hyperborean age is not about proving the unprovable. It's about listening to the silence behind the noise, feeling the pull of something ancient and vast within your own being, remembering that history is not only what happened, but what echoes in us from the beginning of time. You may wonder, what does any of this have to do with us today? The answer is simple: everything. In times of chaos, return to origin. In times of confusion, seek the light within. The Hyperborean age offers a mirror, not to who we are now, but to who we were before time shaped us. To remember, it is not to live in the past, but to reclaim the future. A future guided not by division, but by unity. Not by noise, but by stillness. Not by fear, but by radiance. And in that stillness, the voice of Hyperborea speaks again. To explore the Hyperborean age in greater depth, we must understand that time itself was different, not only in measurement, but in essence. Blavatsky taught that the early root races existed before the Earth's rotation and axis tilt stabilized. In the Hyperborean age, there were no seasons as we know them. The Earth's climate was uniform, and the land surrounding the North Pole, what would later become the Arctic wastelands, was warm, fertile, and bathed in a perpetual glow. Modern polar science struggles with this notion, yet paleobotanical findings have unearthed fossilized tropical plants deep beneath Arctic ice. Could these be remnants of that paradisiacal epoch? The Hyperborean homeland, often called the imperishable sacred land, was never meant to be found physically. It was a spiritual blueprint, one that faded from this dimension as consciousness fell deeper into material reality. Myths from diverse traditions echo this polar origin. The Norse spoke of Asgard, a heavenly realm in the north. The Greeks of Hyperborea, land of eternal spring. The Zoroastrians referenced Ariana Vaicha, the Aryan paradise, believed to lie far to the north. Even Native American legends tell of star beings descending from a place of constant light and teaching the early people before vanishing. These stories, scattered across geography and culture, share common motifs: light, purity, harmony, and a connection to the celestial. Blavatsky suggested that these were not separate myths, but fragments of a single lost memory, the memory of Hyperborea, embedded in the collective subconscious of mankind. The convergence of these narratives points toward an ancient truth disguised as folklore. One of the most fascinating aspects of the Hyperborean Age is the lack of duality. In modern human life, duality governs our experience: light and dark, life and death, good and evil. But in the second root race, this polarity had not yet solidified. There was no gender, no opposition, no competition. There was balance. The Hyperboreans did not perceive themselves as separate from the cosmos, from each other, or from the divine. Blavatsky referred to this as pre-karmic existence. These beings had not yet incurred personal karma because they did not act from ego or will. They acted from harmony with the universal current. This is why they are sometimes considered immortal, not in body but in vibration. Their essence still lingers in the ether, waiting to be accessed by those with purified perception. What followed the Hyperborean Age was a descent into complexity. As the third root race, when the Lemurians began to emerge, the soul experienced for the first time true individuation. With it came the blessing and burden of choice. Desire was born, fear entered, the need to survive, the joy of love, the pain of loss. These human experiences, so familiar to us now, were alien to the Hyperborean being. Their fading marked the end of innocence, not in a moral sense, but in a metaphysical one. And yet, their departure was essential. Just as a seed must crack for the tree to grow, so too did the Hyperborean state need to dissolve for human evolution to unfold. This wasn't a fall from grace. It was a sacrifice into matter, so that light could discover itself through shadow. In occult science, it's said that the structure of the human subtle body still contains remnants of these early races. The etheric body, the part of us that interfaces with life force, is most directly linked to the Hyperborean template. Those who develop subtle perception through practices like meditation or clairvoyance often describe encounters with light beings, angelic forms, or presences of pure awareness. Blavatsky hinted that these are not necessarily external spirits, but echoes of our own higher evolutionary roots. In remembering them, we remember ourselves. This connection is why certain sacred practices aim not only to expand consciousness, but to purify the lower nature, making us once again receptive to the frequencies of the second race. Hyperborea also raises important questions about the role of science versus spiritual knowledge. In an age where empirical data rules supreme, teachings like those of Blavatsky are often dismissed as fantasy. Yet the limitations of materialist science leave deep questions unanswered. Why do so many ancient cultures point north for origin? Why does genetic memory sometimes carry inexplicable fears, longings, or visions of light-filled places we've never seen? Could the structure of human consciousness itself carry encrypted layers of memory from prehistoric, pre-material existence? Blavatsky believed that modern humans suffer from spiritual amnesia and that our crisis is not technological, but metaphysical. The answer lies not in discovering new data, but in reactivating ancient knowing. The Hyperborean Age is not just a story, it's a compass. In spiritual psychology, it represents the idealized inner state we are all trying to return to, whether we realize it or not. Every human longing for unity, for peace, for simplicity, for belonging can be traced back to a dim echo of Hyperborea. In art, this appears as utopian visions. In religion, as paradise lost. In dreams, as radiant landscapes and beings of light. Hyperborea is not behind us. It is above us, like a celestial archetype calling us upward. And perhaps in the final stage of humanity's journey through the root races, we will rise again to meet it, not as innocent light beings, but as conscious co-creators. Interestingly, some esoteric researchers suggest that great teachers and avatars throughout history carry fragments of Hyperborean memory. Blavatsky herself hinted that figures like Christ, Krishna, and Buddha might have incarnated not just as men, but as vessels of ancient archetypes, reactivating wisdom from cycles long before recorded time. If this is true, then the teachings of these masters are not new revelations but deep recollections of the divine state humanity once knew. This shifts our relationship to spiritual practice. It is not about learning something foreign, but about remembering something buried. Meditation, contemplation, and sacred ritual become tools of excavation, helping the soul to uncover its luminous ancestry. Many ask, if the Hyperborean Age was real, why is there no trace? Why no ruins, no relics, no writings? The answer is simple, yet profound. The Hyperboreans left no physical evidence because their age was pre-physical. They did not build with stone, but with light. Their knowledge was not carved in tablets, but held in resonance. And just as a dream leaves no footprint when you wake, so too did the Hyperborean world dissolve as Earth descended into density. But it left behind a fragrance, in myth, in symbol, in instinct. The pyramids, the labyrinth, the mandala, these may be later attempts to echo that primal harmony. But the original song, it was sung in silence. Helena Blavatsky knew that not all would accept these truths. But she wrote for the few, the seekers, the wanderers, the ones who feel ancient without knowing why. The Hyperborean Age is not to be debated, but to be experienced inwardly. It is a mirror for the soul, reminding us that we are more than flesh, more than name, more than time. We are echoes of light, pilgrims of eternity, sparks from a forgotten sun. And though the path forward winds through shadow, the memory of Hyperborea remains, a beacon in the night, a call to awaken. Not to what we were, but to what we truly are. In the silence between thoughts, in the space between dreams and waking, the Hyperborean memory waits. It does not speak in words, but in resonance, a subtle pull towards something ancient, vast, and luminous. Helena Blavatsky did not claim to invent these ideas, but to reveal what the soul already knows. The Hyperborean Age is not gone. It lives on in your longing for simplicity, your craving for harmony, your moments of pure inner stillness. It lives in every myth that speaks of a paradise lost, and every meditation that brings you back to a center beyond time. The question is not whether Hyperborea existed, but whether we're ready to remember it, to reawaken its light within us, not as history, but as destiny. If this vision has stirred something deep inside you, you're already on the path. A path not to the north, but to the center of your being, where the eternal sun never sets.